And before this season starts, you had a chance to hook up with Pete Carroll.
Absolutely.
Jackie, and we have to really share this with our viewers at home because it was a great interview, and Pete is so fired up. He's always fired up, ready to go. He's ready to play the game tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And you had such a great conversation with him. We gotta let the viewers see this.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me here on OnPoint Live. Our friend Vince Ferragamo had to go off and welcome a new grandbaby into the world, so he's not going to be with us, but he really wanted to be here to talk to Pete, and I'll just have to let Pete know that he wishes he were here. Our guest today is none other than Pete Carroll, a fantastic coach that I've had the opportunity to watch do his work for a number of years. He's the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks since 2010. He's won 5 NFC West titles. He's won 2 NFC championships, and he's the winner of Super Bowl 48 as the head coach. Pete, we're thrilled to have you here today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jack. Good to be with you, and congratulations to Vince.
Well, thank you very much. I'll convey that to him when I see him. Pete, we have a past connection. I want to see if you remember this. 20 years ago, almost to this time, 20 years ago, I was at USC visiting with my son, Matthew, who was having a track scholarship offer. You came into the room, you saw him, you left the room, you found out who we were, and you came back in the room, Pete, and you said to Matthew, you said, "Hey, you look like a defensive back, maybe a corner." And Pete, I got to tell you, when you said that, it was like starting a fire. Matthew, he wanted to run away from USC because he fancied himself a wide receiver, and he wanted to run routes and catch balls. But, Pete, you may have been right because in the 15 years that he's played with the Patriots, he's only caught 1 pass, but he started 2 games as a defensive back. So if he had gone there and let you coach him, he might have had a better chance to get on the field a little bit more.
Yeah, we got him covering those guys out there. Had a chance.
Well, anyway, Pete, speaking to Matthew, your paths have kind of crossed a little bit again here recently relative to this new kickoff rule. The new kickoff rule, which says they're going to kick the ball off, and then you can fair catch it, and then it automatically comes to the 25-yard line. Now, my son Matthew is a special teams player, and he contends with that thought because he says that if you're doing this for player safety, there are other things that you can do. For example, he thinks that limiting or eliminating the artificial turf that guys are playing on would cut down on a lot of injuries. And he also feels that the compacted schedule that guys have to play now, playing on Thursday after playing on a Sunday, lends itself to more injuries as well. In addition to those two, he thinks that it's going to limit jobs of special team players in the National Football League. Now, I know you have an opinion about this new rule. What is it?
Well, I wasn't for it at all, just because we like the game and we like that aspect of the game. And it's a good, tough, part of the game that we wish we could keep it. However, and we were really opposed to the rule change. But when you get right down to it, and they're going to prove to us that guys are getting hurt in that play, and they thought they could save some well-being for players, and you got to give it consideration. And the league was really strong about it. It worked out okay in college football. I've witnessed the games in college football. It doesn't really change that much, but for those of us that kind of grew up in the game, it's just been an integral part, and we don't like seeing it go. I don't think it's going to change the impact of it as much. It's like the whole game's going to be different. We're going to still be aggressive with it, and I'm sure a lot of other teams too, because we want to push the ball past the 25. So we're going to see what how that fits, and we'll make our choices. But again, I don't think it'll change the game that much. I wish it wouldn't had to have switched. But we also got to keep our game safe and take care of our players. And so, I'm kind of, you can hear me talking on both sides of it. I'm always for the player.
Absolutely. Pete, you've had a tremendous amount of success in your last 2 stops as a head coach. You won national championships at USC, a Super Bowl there with Seattle. And each time, as I have observed, each time you had to go in and reshape the program. What are the first 1 to 3 to 5 things that you feel like you have to institute to make your programs be successful as they have been?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the philosophy of it. Jackie, if if you're changing your approach and you're changing your thoughts and how the game's supposed to be or going to be played and all that, then you really don't have a real set mentality of how you're trying to do it. Um, as strict as we've been to stay the course on the ways that we build our team, um, the philosophy is the same, but yet the players come in each year and they bring a different flavor. I mean, one year to the next, it can be a different sense, a different awareness, different feeling of how the philosophy is put into motion. But the consistency that it takes comes from commitment, and you know what you believe in, you know what's important to you, and you can stick to it, and you can outlast the challenges and the setbacks and the unforeseen occurrences that could knock maybe other guys off course. So I really think that's the key, is staying consistent with what you believe in and being true to who you are. And if you do that, then you have your best chance to be your best. And that's really all we're doing. And sometimes it takes, there's a loop in there that takes a little longer than others, to get back on course. But we know what we're trying to build, and so we know where we're trying to go. And so then we just got to go about getting it done. And I think that's what's given us a chance to be consistent for a long time.
Right. Those sounds like lessons learned to me, Pete. And your previous two stops in New York and New England, you didn't quite have the success that you would have hoped for. And do you think that that philosophy that you just shared with me, some of it came from going through those tough couple experiences?
Oh yeah, it sure did. When I go back to my Jets days, my first meetings, and how I went about it, I was nowhere near where I needed to be. And then even in New England, when I was hired there to bring the San Francisco system and all of that, which was something I was really excited about. But even in those 3 years there, and we didn't do badly. We were 27 and 21 or something like that in those years. I mean, we went to the playoffs a couple times too, but it wasn't good enough for what they wanted there. And I might have been able to find it, but I think the fact that I did get fired and had to go through it, it was in that off season following New England when really there was an epiphany for me, and I realized something that I needed to, that's changed me ever since, and I haven't been the same since. And it was kind of a complex thought, but it was a simple process. I just needed to figure out what I truly believed in, and I needed to uncover the uncompromising principles that guided the way I thought and coached, and I needed to put it together in a way that it could be translated and transferred to coaches and players and all that. So during that off season, I mean, I kicked ass on it, and this that we've done here in Seattle after the years in SC is just an extension of it. We haven't changed that much. We really stayed with the foundation that was built there, and so I wasn't ready, in the first two go rounds, and so I get my butt kicked, and I'm kicked out. I'm on the street, and all that. And I hate learning the hard way, but it did lead me to the moments that it made sense to me about competition
Absolutely.
and how you drive this program, and how you're being authentic and true and straight with the players, and care for the players, and care for them so much that you'll do anything you can to help them be as good as they can possibly be. That's really the kind of what's carried through, and I ain't backing off on that. It's the only way I know how to do it, and I like doing it that way because I like the relationships that come from that willingness to share in their improvement and the projection of their careers and stuff. And so anyway, I wasn't the same. I had to change that. I wasn't going to get. I was thinking about that. I wouldn't have maybe 16 or 17 months in the next job I got, and I needed to get it organized in a hurry.
Well, you figured it out, Coach, and you got it going in grand fashion. The 2023 season is quickly approaching. You've had your rookies in that you drafted, your veterans, gone through your OTAs. How do you feel about your team as we approach this upcoming season?
Oh, I'm fired up now, Jackie. I'm really jacked up about this group. We have a great blend of veteran leadership. We've got a youthful sense about us. There's a sense of urgency. There's a speed that we play with and will perform with. Expertise, in great areas. Our kicking game is really solid. Kickers and punters are great. We can catch it. We can throw it. There's a lot of really great aspects of this team. But most of all, I'm excited about their open to becoming a great team. They're willing to do what it takes, I believe, to really share this experience with one another, to get us to a point where we can get really close and really connected, so that we play with that special, chemistry that makes you different, makes you special, and can give you a championship opportunity.
Wow. One of the things, Coach, that really impressed me this past season was the performance of Geno Smith. Geno has been a guy that's been beat up a little bit, knocked around. I can remember all the way back to him being a first-round pick, anticipated first-round pick, sitting in that room, and his name was never called. But you and your staff, what you did was you instilled something in him. You either coached him or you figured out something to make him a very unique player. I mean, the guy had the 4th highest QBR in the NFC last year. He had the 7th overall highest QBR in the whole NFL. And of the 30 touchdown passes he threw, 13 of them came on down the field, missiles accurately thrown and just where they needed to be for him to be successful. I mean, this is just like it's a revelation to see how this guy is playing right now. What have you guys done?
Well, first up, Jackie, it's all about Geno. For Geno to have believed in himself throughout all of these years, and never really wavered on his ability to handle the situation if given the opportunity, and his staying power in the way he worked. And he came in here 4 or 5 years ago now in unfamiliar situation, didn't know anybody really, and just kind of emerged as a great backup player, meaning that he was willing to take that role on in supporting Russell's play, but yet never give up on himself and never take a sideways turn. When the opportunity came to him, he was ready, and he
Wow.
showed you that. I have to tell you, he showed you that, and he didn't just show you that physically; he showed it emotionally, and from a character standpoint, he handled it so beautifully that he gave us great leadership. He didn't change one iota. He just assumed the opportunity and made the very most of it. And what he's done since then, he goes to the Pro Bowl and he does all that fun stuff to kind of heighten, the kind of the celebration of it all. He just went right back to work, and he is so focused and so tuned in. His offseason that he's put together so far, and how he's led us through this offseason, he's been impeccable. And
Wow.
he's really talented. I mean, don't miss the fact that he's got a great arm, he's got great athleticism, he's got timing and the background to read and diagnose and understand and adjust. He's got all that stuff. He's just a really good ball player. He just didn't have a chance over those years. Now, I don't know, 6 years ago, I don't know where Geno would have been. 7 years ago, I don't know. But I know that in the time he spent with us, because of the way he approached it, he did not miss this opportunity when it arose. And it's a great story.
Wow, it really is, Coach. It really is to watch. Now I've known you for a long time, Pete, and I think I know your philosophy. I've heard you preach it. I've heard you talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it. Your mantra has always been, we are going to be competitors. We are going to compete at the highest level regardless of what's going on. I've never once seen a team that you coach quit. I've never seen them stop. You may have seen it, but I have never seen it the entire time that I have known you. And so what I want to know is how, I'm looking at these guys. These guys are making millions of dollars, Pete. And by week 13, I know that these guys are beat up, they're nicked up, they're tired, they're worn down, but they still show up and play for you at a very, very high level. So what I want to know is, how do you keep motivating guys to keep attaining this high level of success?
I appreciate you seeing it in that way. I hope it is that way. It's a long process, Jackie, for us, and there's a big, style of way that we go about our game, and the expectations that we set and the standards that we practice and prepare by are those that come to us when we need them most. When you're coming down a stretch and you got to finish seasons, you got to finish games, you got to finish plays. There's a whole mentality about that, and we have been a really good team at the end of the seasons, and really all the way back to the SC days as well, where we finished seasons well, we finished games well. We were hard to beat in the fourth quarter, all of that kind of stuff. And I do think that there's there's a mentality for it, and there's a way that you can direct your team so that they can hold on to what they need to focus on when the time comes. And we're pretty clear. And I'd like to think that it makes sense to them, and we're gonna outlast you. We're gonna have a mentality where we can outlast you in the fourth quarter of seasons and games, and even in plays uh, that that we're clear about. And so it gives us a chance to finish really well. And so I don't know. There's some gray area in here, but I do think that there's a lot to that. And there's the messaging, is really always compete. It's really, that's my philosophy, and we've tried to pass that along to these guys. And you either compete or you're not, and you're always seeking that edge to keep going. And there's never a time when you can rest on that. And if we can stay curious and stay focused at having the fun that it takes to keep you engaged over a long period of time, regardless of what the challenges and the hurdles may be, you can be successful on a long-term basis, I think. And
Pete,
that's
I'm ready to suit up, Pete. I'm ready to suit up. I'm ready to get some shoulder pads and come and try it one more time.
I wish I had a chance to coach you, Jack. You'd have been awesome.
Well, we would have some fun, Pete. And, a lot of the coaches, some of the coaches that I had, if they had the philosophy that you just expressed to me, they probably would have coached a lot longer than they did. There's no doubt about it. I watch a lot of Ram games, as you might imagine, in person and on TV, and I am really impressed with the precocious young Sean McVay. And to me, he's one of the best young coaches that I've ever seen to come out and to be having the success that he's having. Now, you've competed against him over the last 6 seasons. What is your impression of Sean McVay?
Yeah, I'm glad you gave us a chance to talk about him. I think he's an incredibly effective coach. I noticed it right off the bat in his first couple of years. His ability to structure a team and to build an offense and a style of defense, and just a level of play and consistency that was remarkable. He's got great insights. He's got great instincts for the game. Yeah, he must be tough on his players enough to keep them coming back. He's got good vision. His creative part of his game is really good. Um, and I'm sure for Sean, it's been hard in the sense because they've been so successful so early that it's hard to figure out how to stay that way, and it's a big challenge. He hit it so fast and so quickly, and he's kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of other guys to get opportunities, kind of in the same fashion, same background, and guys are doing well. So I think he's had a big impact on the game. He's one of the best coaches that I've ever worked against, and I expect that it's always going to be a battle. I love competing against him, and I like that he's a young guy and I'm an old guy, and we got to figure it out how to go head to head all the time. And I look forward to those matchups.
Well, certainly we have enjoyed watching those matchups, and I always think in my mind, I'm thinking a young offensive mind and an old dog that really knows how to stop them. So I always look with that kind of curiosity when I watch you go against Sean McVay. We don't achieve success, Pete, as coaches or as players unless we've had mentors, unless we've had people that taught us and via example or just literally sitting us down and telling us these things. I know in my life, I was exposed to the great Art Shell. He was a mentor to me, and I loved everything about his game. I was also exposed to Big Bob Brown. You might remember him. He would play with the Eagles, the Rams, and then the Raiders. So some special guys. If you were to think about the men that have influenced you and had an impact on your career, and you were building your own Mount Rushmore, who would those guys be that you would carve their face in that stone?
That's a good question, Jack. I would not miss my high school coach. Bob Trautman was my guy, and that coached me for my years in high school. But it also took me to his camps every year. I went for like 7 straight years, I think it was. Coaching in his camps, coaching Pop Warner kids, and then coaching the high school kids when I was in college. And he really set the foundation of appreciating the game and loving the game. I already was in love with it, but he just had a way about him. So he would have to be there with me. There's no question that Bud Grant would be on that right in the middle of that that mountain.
The great Bud Grant.
Yeah, he had I had tremendous relationship with him, where he really took me in and gave me a chance to figure out what was important to me, and seeing him and watching his extraordinary wisdom and instincts for the game and for people and all that. Um, his observation powers were just extraordinary, and so I mean, he would be there. I'd get Monty Kiffin on that build on that
Monty
wall too,
Kiffin.
yeah,
Monty
Kip
Kiffin.
taught me a bunch about football now, and God bless him, man. He's an all-time effect on my career, because it was all about defense, and he was as good as you could possibly get. But I wouldn't forget Bill Walsh either now, because he was the guy that I was following, and when I had all through the years and through their success, I was born in San Francisco, and so I was a Niners fan growing up and all of that in my college days, and always studying those guys, and then having a chance to get to the Niners when he came back as a consultant. He was there, and I got to hang with him for the 2 years, and,
Wow.
and just be there, and he was really, really gracious to me, and I got to quiz him on everything that they were doing and why and how.
Oh, my goodness.
It was really good. And it was just a glorious opportunity. So those would be my guys on the mountain up there.
Well, you got Pete. You picked some good ones, and I can still remember sitting on the bench wondering how long was it going to be before Bill Walsh coached team came off the field. They took up all the time, only scored a field goal, and just kept doing it over and over and over. And so impressive, and it was so difficult to beat those guys. Pete, I want to thank you for joining us here on OnPoint Live. It's been a real joy for me and an honor that you would take the time to come and join us, speak to our fans. And we got a lot of people here in Southern California, as you might imagine, that still love Pete Carroll, because you don't duplicate winning, national championships at SC. That just doesn't happen overnight. And you did that, brought championship teams to us here, and now you're up there in Seattle. But we still have a lot of people in Southern California who love you and appreciate all you've done and all you're still doing. So I want to wish you continued success in the upcoming season, with the exception of maybe a couple of teams one team that you've played twice, the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not going to be pulling for you there, Pete, but continued success in all of your efforts, okay?
Jackie, thank you so much. The days in Southern California will be my favorite of all time. And I really appreciate that you acknowledging it. It still remains so close to my heart. But in those 2 games, we're coming after you, Jack.
Okay, Pete. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
He's coming after you, Jackie.
That's what he said. It was a fantastic opportunity for me, Vince, to sit and talk with him and to listen to him, because, this guy makes a lot of sense, common sense, and the type of approach that I think just about any player can relate to. He keeps it simple.
Yeah,
as simple as
Jackie,
that.
And he's a Super Bowl winning coach. His mentors, he mentioned his high school coach. He mentioned Bill Walsh. He mentioned Monty Kiffin. Monty Kiffin was coaching in Nebraska, defensive coordinator, fired up kind of coach,
Yes,
Jackie.
definitely.
Real emotional. That's how Pete coaches his defense. He's emotional. He's fired up. He's youthful. Okay, he brings that.
He's right out there on the field with them, running around in the middle of the
drill.
drill.
He's a player coach, Jackie. He'll give a high five to a player coming off the field. That's how they win, Jackie.
Absolutely. And Vince, he's also very ultra competitive. Did you hear what he said at the end of the interview?
Yeah, he's going to fire up. He's coming out to get you, Jackie.
I said, I hope you win all of those games but 2. And he said, I'm coming after you, buddy. So there's no doubt about it. Sean McVay is going to have his hands full, as he always does, when he goes against a Pete Carroll coach team.